So there's exercises that we've done in this room when you've been, in essence, reframing someone's experience. Any examples strike your mind in terms of when you've been reframing? Any exercises we've done that have allowed you to have a different perspective? Yeah, perceptual positions. I think there's a key one. You're taking a different perspective. You have a different frame. You have a relationship in mind. You've got a particular perception, a particular frame around that relationship. And by taking those different perceptual positions, you are altering that frame and taking you have a different frame, a different set of expectations around it, and give it a different meaning. So we do it in all sorts of different ways. And so perceptions, projections at the heart of the whole exercise, if you like. So we do it by moving back in terms of perceptual positions. We can do it with linguistic reframing. We can do it in terms of how we use time. We reframe in terms of our temporal position, our position in time. So, for example, emotions are essentially time-based. So, as an example, guilt. You can't feel guilt about something that hasn't happened yet. Guilt is an emotion that's based in the past. You feel guilty about something which you did and wish you hadn't, or something which you didn't do and wish you did.
You not feel guilty about something you're going to do.
In order to feel guilty about something you're going to do, you have to go out into the future to beyond it and think, oh my God, I did that.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's still about the future, but you position about the past. So, but you position yourself out beyond it. Okay. So, does anyone? I can talk through it. We can just play with it for 5 minutes before we go after lunch. Who's got something which, when they were a kid, they feel just a little bit guilty about? What's that hand's name?
Stop it!
It's telling me something, Mr. Blake. I'm not sure what it's telling me. Just something small they did that. Do you know what? Wish I'd done that.
Could it be really mean?
Sorry?
Can it be really mean?
That could be really mean. What is it? Something like that?
I'm just thinking about something I used to do.
Okay.
But it's a bit mean.
You wouldn't necessarily have to tell us about it. The only reason we tell us about it will be to fulfil our gratuitous sense. But you wouldn't necessarily have to. But when you think about that, does that make you feel guilty?
Yeah, I mean it's funny, but it's funny. I don't really do. Yes.
So if you felt guilty about it, if it was out of 10 and 10 was overwhelming sense of guilt and 1 was don't care about it or think about it and just laugh and...
Yeah, I think it's...
What would it be?
Yeah, it's probably about a 3.
About a 3. There's about, because you can play, if someone wants to do this, if they don't, then we'll have a go. But if someone's got something that's maybe about a 4 or 5, because then you could just play along as we were doing it, because you can do it. Sit in the audience if you want.
I've got something that's very naughty, Mr. Perry, so I do feel really guilty about.
You feel really good about that?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Give it out, can't you?
It's like the confessions on radio 2.
You saw the hand go up?
Yeah. My neck is still stinging. Am I sitting up there?
Yeah, I think you are.
You're on the spot.
Yeah. Right.
Is it okay if I just sort of touch it across the present?
Oh, this place.
It won't be too intimate because she's watching.
I understand.
So this sense of guilt. I'm going to ask some silly questions, but then you'd expect that, wouldn't you? How do you know you've got it? I mean, you could feel it. Whereabouts would you feel it in your body?
Oh, right, just there, very strongly, right there, just underneath that bone there.
All right, very strongly just underneath that bone there.
Yeah.
Okay. So, how strong is that feeling of guilt out of 10? If 10 was the strongest that it could be.
But when I think about it?
Yeah, as you think about it now, how strong is it?
About a 7 or an 8.
7 or an 8, okay. Which would it be, 7 or 8?
8.
8, okay. So, just curious to know, when would be the first time, close your eyes if you're not already doing this, when would be the first time you can remember feeling this feeling of guilt that's an 8 out of 10? Now, it might not be the first time you ever felt this feeling of guilt, but it is the first time you can remember feeling this feeling now.
Oh, right, I know exactly when that was.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, what I'd like you to do is, I'd like you to just to go back now, just to go right back. I'd like to go back before that event happened.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you're back before the event. Okay. Quite a way before the event. Yeah? Okay. What's that feeling of guilt now?
No, it's not there.
Not there, no, okay. Okay. So what is there?
Okay.
It's okay. 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 So it's okay then, is it? It's okay. It's okay. Okay. Well, what I'd like you to do is, in a moment, when I tell you to, I'd like you to come all the way back to now, all the way through that event, where you had felt guilty, bringing this feeling with you all the way through, all the way back to now. Okay? And you can let me know when you got here just by, if you had your eyes closed, you'd open your eyes with, just signal to me that you've come all the way back to now. Okay? With this feeling. Okay? So when you're ready, all the way back to now, through that event with this feeling, all the way. Okay? So, what happens when you think back now?
Yeah. Bit of a bugger, but I don't feel guilty.
Oh, okay, you don't feel guilty. What do you feel?
Just laughing, really.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So, it was an 8 before when you thought about that event?
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely.
Yeah, what is it now?
Well, it's a nothing.
Okay.
Right. There you go.
Okay, you spike up.
So what did you do?
Slightly out because we all just laugh.
I
There's
stole
no guilt.
a finger of fudge from the sweet shop at the top of the
You're not
road.
telling the social worker.
And the worst thing was my mum asked me where I got it from. And I said I bought it. And she asked me where I got the money from. And I said Auntie Topsy had given me the money for it. That wasn't true. What a little shit.
Put a little time around. So, simply by shifting the time frame that we use, we can make a completely different sense of an experience. Something which, in the past, or up until 5 minutes ago, had been a source of guilt at a high level, because it had been an 8. Actually now, there's nothing there, it's just funny. It's okay. Simply by taking a different frame, a different temporal perspective. And so we use all sorts of different frames, and we can use those and recognise how people are using those to shift them, to move them around to places where they have a greater choice, greater flexibility, and are able to see things and perceive things in ways that are much, much more enriching for them. And we do that in terms of our reframing all the time. And I would suggest to you, it's just an offer, it's up to you, is that some people say, can you reframe yourself? And I guess it's something that people do ordinarily anyway, but you can choose to do it much, much more consciously, much more deliberately, and in a much more, in some ways, structured way. There's a guy I know, and he does it, to begin with, he did it in a very kind of conscious-minded way, and now it's just part of who he is. He's almost anchored, if you like. But every night, before he goes off to bed, he thinks back through his day, and he reframes it in ways which are useful and constructive to him. Now you hear some nonsense from some people, okay, that you can reframe and you should reframe any experience. Okay? My family's just been wiped out in a car accident, my house burnt down because the plane crashed into it, all in the same half an hour. But never mind, it's given me a wonderful opportunity to reevaluate my life and give me all sorts of new choices and options in the future, unencumbered by the baggage of the past. Well, it's nonsense, because actually shit happens and life can be really, really tough. And to reframe it is patronising in the extreme, in that kind of sense, in that kind of way. And yet every experience needs to be dealt with and needs to be valued and has something positive to offer us, even if it's the fact that we just managed to survive. There is something we can take to build on, to build to the future. And clearly what we're talking about is not devaluing people's difficult and traumatic experiences. It's enabling them to learn what they can from those, which can be helpful to them in the future. Or which, in a kind of simple, much more everyday way, is just going to flip them from a negative perspective, a limited perspective, into something that's more positive and gives them more scope for choice into the future.